Everything you've been told about the American dream is a massive lie designed to keep you lonely, broke, and dependent on a system that doesn't care about you. We are taught that the rugged individualist cowboy won the West all by himself, but that is a complete myth. The pioneers who actually built America didn't live like the lonely heroes in Hollywood movies. They lived exactly like traditional Punjabi farmers in a village. I'm talking about the same values, the same social structures, and the same deep-rooted obsession with the land. But there is a disturbing reason why this Punjabi-style American life was systematically destroyed by the government. And if you stay until the very end, I'm going to reveal the secret agenda that turned us from powerful community members into isolated consumers. Think about the modern American life for a second. You live in a house, you barely know your neighbors, you buy your food from a massive corporation, and if you get sick or run out of money, you're on your own. Now compare that to the traditional Pind or village life in Punjab. In the Pind, you have the Sanjha Parivar, the joint family. You have the Panchayat, the local council. You have Vand Chako, the concept of sharing what you earn. If you stepped into a time machine and traveled back to 19th century Ohio, Nebraska, or Pennsylvania, you wouldn't find the lonely individual. You would find a world that looks, smells, and acts exactly like a Punjabi farm. It's mind-blowing how much we've forgotten about our own history. Let's start with the foundation of everything, the family. In the modern West, we celebrate the nuclear family, mom, dad, and 2 kids. But in old America, that would have been considered a recipe for certain death. Just like in a Punjabi household, early American farms were run by massive joint families. You had 3 generations living under one roof. You had uncles, cousins, and siblings all working the same soil. Why? Because you needed the hands. You couldn't survive a harvest without 10 people working in sync. The zamindar pride, that deep spiritual connection to the land, was exactly the same. An American farmer in 1850 didn't just own land, he was the land. It was his honor, his izzat. If someone tried to take a foot of his soil, it wasn't a legal dispute, it was a blood feud. Does that sound familiar? It's the exact same warrior-farmer mentality that has defined the Punjab for centuries. And what about the work itself? Today, we call it networking or outsourcing. Back then, they called it barn raising. In Punjab, there's a concept called Sanjhi Kheti, or collective farming. If your neighbor's tractor breaks down or his crop is failing, the whole village shows up to help. No one sends an invoice, no one asks for a credit card. It's a debt of honor. In old America, if a family needed a barn, they didn't hire a contractor. They didn't go to the bank for a loan. They called the community. 50 men would show up at dawn. The women would cook a massive feast, basically a community langar, and by sunset, a building was standing where there was nothing before. This wasn't capitalism as we know it today. This was community-driven survival. It was a pin system in the middle of the American prairie. You might be thinking, surely the food and culture were different, right? Well, look closer. The diet of an early American pioneer was based on what the land gave them. They weren't eating processed garbage. They were eating whole grains, fresh dairy, and preserved meats. The butter and lassi culture of Punjab has a direct parallel in the buttermilk and cornbread culture of the American South and Midwest. They valued physical strength. They celebrated the harvest with massive festivals that looked suspiciously like Vaisakhi, and they viewed the city as a place of corruption and weakness. But here is where things get really intense. Let's talk about justice. In a Punjabi village, you have the Panchayat. If there's a dispute, you don't always run to a high court in a city hundreds of miles away. You go to the elders. You go to the people who know your character and your family's history. Early America worked exactly the same way. Before the federal government became the monster it is today, local justice of the peace courts and community councils settled everything. Your reputation was your currency. If you were a liar or a thief, the community didn't just jail you, they socially deadened you. You were cast out. This is the exact same social boycott mechanism used in Punjabi villages to maintain order without needing a massive police force. So if this system works so well, if it created strong families, healthy people, and resilient communities, why don't we live like that anymore?
Why does the modern American life feel like a prison cell compared to the penned lifestyle of our ancestors? This is where the tease ends and the reality hits you like a freight train. The transition from the Punjabi-style farm to the modern isolated suburb wasn't an accident. It was a calculated move.
The powers that be realized something very dangerous. A self-sufficient, community-oriented people are impossible to control. If you grow your own food, you don't need the supermarket. If you have a massive joint family, you don't need government welfare. If you have a community that helps you build your house, you don't need a 30-year mortgage from a predatory bank.
The penned system, both in Punjab and in Old America, is a threat to the corporate state. So they broke it. They passed laws that made small-scale farming nearly impossible. They pushed industrial education to pull kids away from the farms and into factories. They glorified the nuclear family because a small family is fragile. A small family is easy to break. A small family is forced to buy everything they need because they don't have the hands to make it themselves.
We were sold a version of freedom that was actually just isolation. They told us that living with your parents and cousins was backward or uncivilized. They told us that being a zemindar was old-fashioned and that working a 9-to-5 in a cubicle was progress.
But look around. Are we happier? Are we healthier? We have record-breaking rates of depression, loneliness, and chronic illness. We've lost the Sanjha spirit. We've lost our connection to the soil. We've lost the very things that made old America and traditional Punjab the strongest societies on earth.
The real American dream wasn't a corporate ladder. It was a plot of land, a big family, and a community that had your back. It was the pinned. And the most shocking part of all? The people who still live that way, the farmers who refuse to give up their land, the families who stay together despite the pressure to split, are the only ones who are truly free.
The government didn't just destroy the American farm. They tried to destroy the American soul by cutting its roots. They wanted us to forget that we once knew how to survive without them. They wanted us to forget that our neighbors are our brothers, not our competitors. But the secret is out. People are starting to realize that the modern way of living is a trap. All over the world, people are trying to get back to the land. They are trying to rebuild their pins in the middle of the modern world. They are rediscovering that the old ways weren't primitive, they were perfect. If you want to survive what's coming next, you need to stop acting like a consumer and start acting like a zemindar. You need to build your tribe, secure your food, and reconnect with the people around you. The era of the lonely individual is over. The era of the community is coming back. If you're ready to reclaim your independence and join the 1% who see through the corporate lies, you know which button to click. Join this community by hitting subscribe, and let's start building something real again. The truth is hidden in our past. Don't let them bury it.